everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the One Step Services webinar series. We are so excited to have you here with us today. We are going to be talking with some rockstar real estate agents and dear friends of the company, Carole and Genelle Geronsin. So we are so excited. This is going to be a really informative webinar for you. You guys are going to learn a lot of just how to continue to operate your business successfully during a time of crisis. And I think what's going to be most interesting is the things that change during a time of crisis, but also the things that actually stay the same. So we're going to touch a lot on that today. As we are waiting for people to come in, I just want to share a little story just to kind of motivate and excite you as to why what everyone is doing in real estate is still so important. My sister is a COVID-19 nurse, so she works exclusively with COVID-19 patients, and she and her husband were looking for a house, and just really they wanted to buy a house right now. Just personally, this was the time for them to buy one. But she was really stressed out because of just her work environment, and she just wanted to be able to do it safely. And so her real estate agent worked really well with them and did everything safe. They were able to view in person the one house that they really wanted, and they opened up escrow this week because their real estate agent was totally flexible and open and willing to work with them in a super safe way. So everything that you guys are doing is so important. People still need to buy and sell homes, and we are just really excited and honored that we get to help equip you in doing that with different marketing pieces and with webinars such as this. So just a couple housekeeping things before we get started. This is a live Q&A at the beginning of the webinar. Sandy is going to be doing an interview with Carole and Genelle. You can submit questions at that time. If you look down below at your screen, you should see a Q&A box. And you can submit questions via text in that box at any time throughout the webinar, and they will be answered in the second half of the webinar. The other way you can submit questions, if you'd like to, when we open it up for live Q&A, you can hit the raise hand icon, which should also be at the bottom of your screen. And what we will do is we'll unmute people one at a time who have their hands raised. And yeah, we'll just unmute you. You can ask your question verbally, and then we'll go ahead and mute you again while Carole and Genelle and Sandy answer that question. This webinar is being recorded, and everybody who attends and who registers will get a recording of this webinar sent to them by Friday, if not by tomorrow, depending on how well I get my act together. So with all that said, we are going to go ahead and open this up for Sandy and Genelle and Carole. And thank you everyone for coming, and let's go ahead and get started.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you very much for taking time out and joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. We tried to schedule one a little later this time than the one we've done before, since everybody seems to be more awake later in the afternoon. So thank you for joining, and I know we're going to have people joining in here as we go along. So we'll try to pick it up as we go. I want to give a little bit of an intro to my guests today, to Carole and Genelle. Most importantly, I guess, a story that I have to share about how I met Carole. It's over 25 years ago now, I'm happy to say. They probably are our longest existing client at One Step Services. I met Carole during an office meeting where the broker I was working for at the time had acquired their office in Anaheim Hills. And I was forced up in front of a room full of 100 people to speak that day. I had never been in front of an audience speaking about our services or real estate marketing or anything I had been doing for the other broker. And right at the end of that meeting, voice shaking, trembling, didn't know how to get out of there fast enough. Carole was in an area of the bullpen that I was speaking into over in the far corner. And all I heard when I was done was, you, I need to speak with you right now. You are what I need. Please come over here. I need to speak with you first. And that's been kind of the story of a very wonderful partnership with these group of amazing realtors and individuals I am so happy to call friends after all this time. Carole was actually at my wedding over 20 years ago, and Carole was actually at my baby shower. My baby is about to turn 18 this summer. So there's a long history of relationship, not just business, but also personal here. So I want to extend a lot of thanks for them joining us today. They're experts in this business. there be no doubt about their marketplace is in middle to high end, and they know what they're doing. And I'm so happy to say we've been a part of that success, helping them out over the years. I'd like to play a little intro video for all of you, just so you can get a little bit better idea of who the Geronsin team really is. So Brianna, please cue that video.
There's no sound.
There's no sound.
No sound.
Well, at least we get to watch a video of how pretty everything is on there. We've got a technical problem going on with the embedded video. Everybody stand by for a second.
Gotta love the day and age of technology.
You do. You just have to love the day and age of technology. It's just one of those things. You know, we've had to learn how to equip ourselves with all kinds of different stuff we never thought we'd be doing. So why not be today?
Sandy, why don't you just keep going with this? I don't know what's going on with the audio, so.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the audio either. Okay, we'll come back to us. We'll come back to that later if we can figure it out. We can also direct you to the Geronsins website to see that. It's a really informative video, great family story going on here, which kind of leads me to my first question. So for everybody out there, the two of you, I know the back history and the story, but for everyone out there, Carole, you have been in this business for over 40 years. That is quite the milestone and accomplishment in any business, but especially in real estate. But when did your business actually grow from you, Carole Geronsin, into Genelle and your son, George, to join the family business? When did Genelle join on to this fun little team?
Well, actually, I had to ask Genelle because time eludes me, especially during COVID. I don't know what day it is or anything anymore. But at any rate, Genelle joined in 2001 reluctantly. She never wanted to be in real estate ever. And she did it coming from Arizona, a teaching position that didn't turn out to be what she wanted. And then George joined us in 2004. So it was a blessed day for me because I got to work. It was the first day that I got to work with both of my children every single day. And it has been the most wonderful experience that any mother or business person could ever want.
And you're still speaking and you still have Thanksgiving together. So that says a lot about, about your team.
Travel together, everything. We're very, very close family. Very close.
I think though, it's important to know, I think like anything else, of course, everything has its growing pains, right? Where you've got someone that's been in the business for, at that point in time, little over 20 years. Definitely had a way of doing business. And anytime you've ever been an independent person running your own business, and then all of a sudden you have these other people coming in and telling you what they think you should change and different things that you should try. You know, I think in a lot of cases, most people are reluctant to let that happen. They're pretty set in their ways to say, why would I do this? I have a successful business. It's been working for 20 years. Why change something that it's not broken? And one of the things I really want to give my mom credit for is the fact that she's always looked at not the attitude of if it's not broken, why fix it, but the attitude of how can we break it to make it better? And I think that that's very important to be aware of, is the fact that, you know, some things, it's really good to keep going down the same train track and work because it's tried and it's true and it delivers results. But just like we're all going through right now, we all have to learn new skills and adapt to different environments. You have to do that in your business to have growth. You have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone and try different things. And so truly kudos to my mom for letting George and I come in, which at that point in time, if you think about it, I was 21, 22 years old, basically coming in thinking I knew all this stuff. George coming in thinking he knew all this, and for all of us to kind of collectively come together and find a common ground to incorporate everything and bring a little bit of youth into it, a little bit more technology into it, but still keep what's been so tried true and gives results.
Yeah, definitely kudos to your mom, because there's nothing easy about change. And we're all sitting here just this last month realizing that there's nothing easy about change, even when it's for the better. So it's definitely a lot to adapt to. And that is part of the reason, the primary reason actually, I asked you today to speak, because that kind of change is not foreign to either Carole or your family as it relates to all those things. Your mission statement, which is on your video, but it's kind of a restatement for me. Your mission statement kind of encompasses a lot of who you are. You exceed client expectations, chief among them. That is the one thing, the mantra of your business model. You call yourself therapists, you call yourself advisors, financial empathizers, communicators, and executioners, right? You execute on everything that you say you're going to do. And in times of market changes, how do you communicate those same principles to potential clients? I guess that's probably our first key. You are who you are. Nothing has changed from 6 weeks ago to today. Those are still the principles you run your business by. How do you communicate that now? What is it that you're doing differently from traditional marketing channels, which we'll get into in a second, but how do you communicate that that's still your primary emphasis right now?
If I may.
Yes, please. I was going to mention what you did.
So one of the things, the moment COVID entered this and we were in a whole new world, the first thing I did is I picked up my phone and I started to call and text all the people, all my friends, the people, past clients, people that I haven't maybe even spoken to in the last 5 years or so, or more. And the results were amazing, and just reached out to them saying, oh my gosh, just want to see how you're doing in these challenging times. You came into my thoughts, which is true. All these people, when I was sitting down and had time to think, because we're kind of on a rat race a lot of times in our business, I really got to think of, oh my gosh, how's this person doing? How's that person doing? I wonder how old their kids are now, and this and that, all these people. And so I reached out to just about every single one of them. I made well over 125 calls probably, or texts to do that. So that was how I started out this whole COVID situation.
So relationship building. I mean,
totally. It's
in a nutshell, relationship building.
It's about relationships with our clients. It's about relationships with other agents. I even reached out to other agents to see how they're doing, because clients are going to come and go. Agents, we're all going to be around for a long time. So we want to get along with them.
That's true. That is true. Genelle, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so, I did that as well. I think, my mom definitely delved into that a little bit more than I did. The one thing that I really concentrated on was, when any negative thing happens, especially when the news media decides to try and spin it into the worst story we've ever heard in our entire lives, there's going to be a natural panic that starts to come into play. And so what I did was more come in from the counselor standpoint and say, listen, please don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything that you hear. If everyone asked us what the market looked like, what anyone predicted that the market would look like after 9/11, everybody thought the market was going to completely tank and go and not recover, right? And the exact opposite happened. So nobody has a crystal ball to know what's going to happen. The only thing that we can do is serve as counsel as to what we believe is currently occurring right now. And we do that by our experience and knowledge, right? So the media saying that, oh my gosh, the housing market is taking a hit. I'd love to see it personally, because we're seeing multiple offers on homes. We're not seeing price depreciation on home ownership right now. We've seen the lowest levels of inventory than I can ever remember seeing. There's a ton of people sitting on the sidelines right now. So we try and always serve to be a positive voice. And, you know, it's extremely important to not get on the bandwagon of, oh, you know what, we have to get it on and we have to price it really good aggressively because otherwise we're going to miss the market. At some point in time, may that start to occur? Possibly. But that is not the initial reaction of what happened. And so you really have to look at yourself to say, if I was in this person's shoes, if I was being advised, what do I really need to hear right now? And it was counseling our clients that are currently on the market. Hey, you know what? This might take a week or two for people to initially just get through the initial panic. Just sit tight. Let's just kind of see how this plays out. We're going to monitor everything. And we're in contact with them literally every day. If nothing else, just to say, hey, just thinking about you. There's no showing requests on any other homes either, so don't worry, it's not your house.
Right.
Right? Make people reassure that everyone's kind of going through very similar things right now, but we're here to be supportive and give you as much information as we're being given ourselves and share all that open and transparently.
So relationship building, counseling, managing fears and expectations, that seems to be the hallmark right now of how to build and how to proceed through good business. I don't think that really differs much from how you guys generally tend to hold your business values, but it is something, you know, for our audience out there, it is something that we all have a little bit more time than we expected to have. And I think that, you know, it's a good use of it, what you guys are doing in that relationship, you know, reach out. Marketing channels that you guys use on a regular basis. Let's talk pre-crisis. Let's talk pre-COVID for a minute. The channels you use on a regular basis to reach out to people, to let them know you've got their best interests at heart, you've got the experience to help them through what they need, and to show them who you really are and why they want to list with you. What are those traditional marketing channels for you?
So traditionally, we did direct mail pieces. We were big proponents of the schools and different platforms for charities that are being done in our area. Social media, those were really kind of our primary points of contact. That obviously changed a little bit, just because, you know, now you're not doing sponsorships necessarily for football teams or being able to be there for libraries and different like book drives and different things that are going on at schools right now. So we've shifted a lot more to social, and truly doing just as much, if not a little more direct mail, because if you notice, for all of us that are used to getting a ton of junk mail, I don't know what happens, but for most part, most of the junk mail is not coming anymore. And people are at home, so they are checking their mailboxes. So we're having an opportunity to be out in front of them. And, you know, Sandy, you've got a couple of messages of how we've changed a little bit, because we were very aware that, especially when this initially took hold, and we were the first people to kind of call, because we had 2 pieces ready to go out, basically saying how hot the market is, sold on a couple of properties. And then all of a sudden this hit, and we thought, oh my God, hold on a second, because, you know, there could be people now sitting at home, they've lost their job, they don't know where their next paycheck's coming from. So that message is not going to be relevant. So we changed our message, and it was more of, hey, you know what? We are here to be a support system. We are here to offer you our expertise. If you have questions about the market, if you just you need somebody to talk to because you are bored in your home by yourself, those are kind of the messages that we started to change, just to continue to be a source of presence in a mailbox. And then as we are slowly now coming out of this, we are now mixing in our pieces of properties that have gone under contract, especially gone under contract and closed in the last 30 to 45 days, to reinforce the fact that we are still working, we are still out there, the market is still moving, we are having transactions go under contract and close escrow.
I want to go back. We were showing those slides of some of those pieces. I know Carole has a comment to make, or Genelle has one of you has a comment to make. Brianna, can you go back to the first piece? That one. I know this is this is the second piece we put out for you. The first piece was the perseverance of a river through a rock. COVID messaging takes on a new meaning. I mean, we've written probably close to a dozen of them specific for this. Yours are different than the ones we've written, but the same theory applies. You added a testimonial onto this one. I think that's key for our audience to understand something. I think as a real estate agent, I think people want to know, potential clients want to know who you are by someone else telling them that, especially in a time like this. Testimonials are powerful things. But Genelle, you had a comment to make about this particular card.
Yeah, so my friend texted me because she lives in a farm where we sent this, where we do quite a bit of business in. And she texted me, she's like, I need all that and a masseuse and a bartender and a hairstylist.
And isn't that the truth? I mean, but you see people are paying attention, right? They're paying attention to the messaging. Carole told me a story a week or so ago. We were on the phone. The post office has been sporadic with some of the delivery dates. We normally see delivery times in most farms within 2 days or so of when we mail them, it arrives. And there was a particular piece that was extending beyond that delivery period timeframe by quite a bit when this first started. I think the post office was trying to get their footing. And I spoke with Carole on the phone. And the story she told me was, there were days and days at a time that I wouldn't check my mail. Like a week went by and I never looked in my mailbox. But I find myself every afternoon very excited to see what's in my mailbox. And she wasn't talking about her piece. She was talking about everyone else's pieces that were in there. So there are people paying attention to the mail. I mean, Carole, you definitely.
Well, when this first hit, one of the first things I said is, oh my gosh, we now have to step up our mail. And we decided we're changing the message, of course, because exactly that, Sandy, I'm too busy. I check my mail once a week. Now everybody's a captured audience. So they're going to be checking their mail constantly. So now is when they're going to be looking at it. And, unfortunately, a lot of real estate agents, really, if we're talking about our industry, they withdraw from that instead of moving forward. It's like the herd mentality or something. And we've always wanted to be different. We always wanted to be proactive all the time. About everything that we do. And this was one of the things that we decided that we felt we needed to do.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to that saying, George has it up in his house and we've used it for a piece, but it's really something we live by, is the fact we go the extra mile because it's never crowded there.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it also is something a little bit more fundamental, you guys. I mean, you're all business people at heart, right? I mean, there's certain fundamental business practices that kind of encompass anything. And we'll get into, these different crises over the year next. But when you have a business that relies on marketing and it relies on outreach and it relies on getting introduced to people who there's no other way for you to be introduced to them. It's not like you're going, to meet them and become friends with people at a farm necessarily all at one time. Business is business. You have a marketing budget set up. You know what you're spending on it. You know how many times you have to be seen in an area, in a farm. You know what it is. The message change is one thing. It's necessary. It's obvious. And, still being and maintaining that same ritual of this is my business. This is how I run my business. The business doesn't end up running you that way. And I think you guys are kind of key to that mentality and how you run the Geronsin team. And I have a lot of clients. I mean, we work for, close to, I would say 80 to 85% of the top 1%, right? In at least California for sure. And that business mentality does not shift in crisis. And it doesn't shift because there's always an outside to the crisis. This doesn't last forever. Nothing ever will, which does bring me to my next question. You've been a client of ours for over 25 years. We've been through a ton together. There's been a lot that's happened in 25 years, not just Genelle and George joining the team, but there's been a lot. When Genelle came on, coincidentally, when she joined your team, that was actually at the height of the .com crisis, when the bubble burst and everything went to hell in a handbasket kind of overnight on all the venture capital firms. That burst started in early 2001. And then, of course, September 11th happened in 2001. And we've also had the Great Recession in 2008 and 9. I love how they coin terms for everything we've been through. That was a bloodbath. I don't think Carole's going to disagree with me in the least. It was an absolute bloodbath. Yeah, in 2008 and 9. And the housing industry was the catalyst in 2008 and 2009 for what happened there. Subprime mortgages were the catalyst. People in over their heads were the catalyst. Foreclosures. I did more foreclosure mailings and marketing pieces than I ever cared to do again. And now we've got this, which they're calling the Great Lockdown. Managing your business has changed in the course of all of those things. It's ebbed and it's flowed along with all of those crises. And have the principles changed in how you look at coming out of the other side of those over the course, looking back as to how you did then and what you did then and how everything resurrected? Has that changed in this versus those last 3 major events?
Well, Genelle, since you're the CEO, do you want to?
Chief Crisis Man? No, that doesn't work. Chief.
No, Genelle is crisis management.
CCO. We're going to call you the CCO, the Chief Crisis Organizer.
It's so funny. They used to call me the Empress or whatever because it was the thing. Well, for anybody who's out there that has any children that are going to come into the business, okay, and they start doing really well, if you are very, very smart, you will learn what I have learned. Let their strengths take over for you. And for me, that's exactly what I've done. George and I feel like Genelle is like our CEO. And she handles all of that, and she does a phenomenal job, right, Jen?
I would like to think so, or at least hope so.
So you've been through all of this, Genelle.
I have.
mean, like your mom has. I mean, we had 2001 and then 2001. And then, you know, we came all up about until 2008, until we all got slapped in the face a little bit, and now we're here. So what about this has changed in how you think through the other side of this and getting through this moment or these moments?
You know, I always say it's about perspective, right? So, you know, I was having a conversation with a business coach yesterday, and we were talking about perspective, and I brought up 2009, and I said, you know, if anyone would go back, that was our family personal worst year, and it was our business worst year. And don't need to go into details with a lot of stuff, but it just overall was, I think anyone in totality was our worst year, right? And so when you have that and you've overcome something like that from a business standpoint and from a personal standpoint, and you get through that, anything's possible after it. And so it's just going back to that point in time and thinking, you know, not that bad.
Yeah.
Might feel bad, but it's really not that bad.
Right.
Because I'm not sitting in the same seat. I'm sitting actually in a lot better seat. And it's just a constant reminder that, you know, bad days happen, so you have an appreciation for the good ones. And if everything continues to be good every single day, if there's no struggles, if there's nothing to overcome, if there's no failure to learn from, you have no appreciation for anything that you have in that moment. And I really think we have to look at things like this as a recalculation of who we are as human beings, how we treat people, how we run a business. Where is our time spent? Where is our money spent? What are we saving for? What are we working for? And we have to have clarity on that, because that's truly what motivates you through times like this. Yes. And if you don't have that, then it's very easy to get caught up in pulling a blanket over your eyes and laying on the couch and watching TV all day, sitting back, waiting for this to pass until you wake up and realize 6 months have gone by and you don't recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror.
Good words to live by, not just in a crisis.
Now you know why she's our CEO.
Yes. Well, I definitely know why.
You know, it's interesting because she brought up 2009, and I have to say, and that was correct. As you know, you participated, Sandy, in our personal horror that year. And, and, you know, we were #1 every single year in our complete area without fail. And that year it didn't happen. And it was actually a wonderful thing because we all thought we could have cared less, and we could have cared less ever about being top again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know what happened? We let go of all of that because we were so competitive all the time, you know? We let go of all of that. And oddly enough, it all came around again, didn't it, Genelle? I mean, it did. And it's just, and our mantra became more and more strong about all we want to do is serve. We want to give our clients the best service possible. And so that all changed, not that we didn't before, but now we were even more committed. That was our uppermost thought in our minds.
And I would have to imagine that this current crisis, since, you know, the outreach part of this, the relationship build part of this has become such a thing. I think that's probably what you're headed for in this as well, is, you know, we're going to come out of this stronger than we were before we started at the end of it, so long as we keep our heads kind of steady and above water with what we're doing here. And I think that's an important message for everyone to hear when they wonder how they get up in the morning and continue on through this. It's a tough business on a normal day. I don't think anybody's not going to nod their head. Real estate is a tough business. I have a profound appreciation for all the clients that we serve in this industry over 30 years. I've watched a lot of crash and burns, and I've watched a lot of success stories, and it is a rough ride. Even in smooth waters, it's a rough ride. So I think it's important. That perspective is important. I think how we market ourselves and how we position ourselves as the people that other people need to come to for advice is important right now. And that is definitely what you're doing.
And I think you need, for right now, you need to dress for battle.
Yeah.
And what I mean for that is it's going to take you 3 times as much energy and effort to get a deal done right now.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a very different lending world right now. You're dealing with high emotional swings with buyers and sellers. You're dealing with a lot of uncertainty in people's lives right now. And it's more important than ever to keep calm, to be very clear, transparent, concise with your information, and to just be there as sometimes as a sounding board and then walk people through the scenarios. So I think if you walk into every day knowing, hey, you know what? Last year, I did 100 transactions. And for the most part, most of them were pretty smooth throughout. I had a couple here and there. You go into this year, especially right now with that mentality, you're going to find yourself extraordinarily stressed and frustrated every single day. Whereas if you can walk into this now and say, okay, what do we got to do today? And get through it, right? Like everything, you get so, like I said, our team is so excited off every closing because you're so emotionally vested in everybody. And not that we're not on a regular basis, but right now when we know that there's financial situations right now, we know there's emotional situations right now. You're so vested in wanting to make things happen for people that you feel their excitement and you want to help them through their stress and their frustration and get them to the end and just be so excited about the end result. So that would be my best advice is know going into this, you're going to work for it, but that's your job. And that's what you should be here to do. And that's why Zillow is out for buying properties right now. That's why iBuyers are out for buying properties right now, because it's not easy to do it right now. And this is why we as agents, people need us. So it's our time right now to help people remember why they want us and why they need us.
Do me a favor. We're gonna skip my train of thought and go into something super interesting, I'm sure, to our audience right now. I get a lot of feedback from my clients on a pretty regular basis about who's listing properties right now, where the calls are coming from, the stories behind the listings, I guess, so to speak, and where they're happening. the challenge of putting the deals together is a whole nother ball game because of all the things you just mentioned. And yeah, you're going to work for everything right now. The value of it at the end should be far greater than it was before because you're working for it. So I agree. And that is what I'm hearing, by the way, from the majority of my clients. But we're marketing and we're doing all these things to tell people you're here for them and you can help them out of these situations, no matter what that situation is. Tell me what you're seeing in the houses you're listing right now. What are the catalyst things that are making people call you to list right now? What is it that are they sick of being at their house because they just realized they don't want to paint that wall? Are they filing for divorce and they know they're going to? I'm just curious. I've heard a lot. In the last, 4 weeks you can imagine, I talk to you guys regularly. Imagine how I talk to our other clients too regularly these days. I'm just curious where your clients, where the stories are.
So some of them are exactly what you just said. I had a call the other day that said, hey, I've talked to you before, but want you to come up and now take a look at the house. We're thinking of selling. We've been quarantined here, and we think if there's another quarantine, we want it to be in another house. Seriously. There are other people that have decided, I'm out of here. In fact, quite honestly, probably 90% of our clients are leaving the state of California and going elsewhere. Right, Genelle?
That might be a little high. I'd probably say like 70%.
No, I'd say 80%.
Mother-daughter arguments going on.
No, there's a lot of people are leaving the state of California. There's no question about that. Relocation, people scaling down. A lot of the larger properties, they decided, they want something smaller to maintain. Other people, small yard, they now want a large yard. Oh, guess why? They've been quarantined, So
right.
There's a number of reasons.
Right.
And I think some people think that the market is going to take a hit from this and that is basically where most of their money is. And so they want to try and get out as much as they possibly can because they truly believe that sometime, in the next 90 to 180 days, this market might look different than what it does right now. And so we've got those as well. Interestingly enough, we do have a couple of relocation clients, but for most intensive purposes in the last 45 days, relocation companies have pretty much halted trading people and moving people in and out of different states unless it's a definite need until kind of this goes through. But yeah, most of it is the fact of that it's not working for them for whatever reason it is. It's not working for them. And kind of to your point, Sandy, about, continued marketing and everything, what I'm finding interesting is whether it's through a Zillow because of all the reviews, or they've seen our signs up for so many years, or our postcards getting mailed, or social media referrals or whatever. It's interesting to me now, people that are coming back to the table of who do you know and who's good versus who do you know?
Yes. At one point before the collapse in 2008, this was a true fact. There was one real estate agent in California for every 13 homes on the market. That's how many licensed realtors we had in the state, which that is just, when you consider California almost 40 million people, that's a lot of licensed real estate agents. So yes, back then, right, Carole, you would agree with me, that was who you knew. It was everybody had a license. So whichever friend, family member, or fourth or fifth cousin could sell your house, that's who you were calling. And Genelle, that's a really good point. I actually do think right now experience and skill level is going to play a major factor in these people's decisions. We had a personal story. My neighbor next door put his home on the market. I have not asked the question yet because it's delicate matters when you ask people why they've decided to sell sometimes. But they put their home on the market, I believe for a job transfer. But it sold in 4 days. It's got a contingent offer on it, multiple offers, 10,000 over what he bought it for a year ago. And apparently the multiple offers have shoved it a little bit higher than that on that. And that pent up demand is crazy right now. I mean, there, for as many people, Carol, as I think might be moving out of California, we might be getting some coming in from what I'm seeing for whatever reason. I mean, for here or there. And the interest rates are low. Things seems to be, attractive, and not everyone, thankfully, has lost their jobs.
Well, yeah, and if you look at it from the standpoint of what it costs to rent,
Yes.
right? And there's no financial benefit to rent. So if you look at what the cost is to rent versus what you can purchase for interest rates, if you have the down payment, and now you have all these people that have been living in these apartment buildings, not able to use the community facilities there, not being able to have a yard. It's basically, if you're lucky, you have a balcony that you can stand and walk 2 feet on. I think people are really readjusting their thought processes of, hold on a second, if I'm going to be here and I'm going to be paying this much, what are other options for me?
I have a lot of agents right now who I would consider listing agents, right? Primarily listing agents, who are sending out marketing pieces with 2 areas saying, I have a buyer. And it's not a joke. It's not the I have a buyer of the fake hook. It's they have those buyers. What you're talking about, right? People that have contacted them saying, I've got to get a bigger place. I've got to move my family from a condo or a townhouse into a single family home. I mean, we're sending out quite a few pieces that are, I have a buyer for any home that someone wants to list. Again, more messaging on point right now for what people need. So I just wanted to make that point because I know you've seen what I heard.
And, getting back to marketing, one of the homes that is going to be closing next week, that call came in because they said, oh my gosh, we've been getting your marketing forever,
Yes.
And so they've been seeing it constantly, and they called us. We listed the home. We sold it at a record-breaking price before it actually hit the market. So
yeah, well, it's amazing how that works, that whole marketing hand in hand with business. It's just, I don't know why that happens, but it happens. I'm being sarcastic. What is the marketing in this time? A little bit different, a little more challenging. What's the greatest tool in your toolbox right now for marketing properties? So somebody calls you, doesn't matter the situation or circumstance, they've got to list this house and they've got to get it sold. What's the biggest tool for you right now to get that house sold?
Video walkthroughs.
Video walkthroughs. So are you doing those yourselves? Are you taking a camera and walking through, or are you having somebody do a video walkthrough?
No, so we're allowed 2 people in a house.
Okay.
So one of them is one of us and one of them is a videographer.
Got it.
And
you're narrating.
I'm sorry?
And you're narrating what
Yes.
they're seeing? Yeah.
And we're literally walking them through the house, and they are videotaping everything like we are showing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm just, this is my personal thing. It's not a knock on anything, but, I need to feel emotion. I want to get a sense for how a house lives. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think you can do that on click-through mechanisms. It's too stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. So it was really important for me to create something for all of us that we had the capability of really being able to emotionally tie a story to a property. And, if you think about this, prior to this, if anyone used lockboxes and you weren't there for appointment only showings, you were basically leaving the story making process up to the buyer and the buyer's agent, of which, since the MLS system opened itself up to anywhere and everywhere in most of the state of California, we'd have agents coming from over an hour away because they didn't want to refer it. They wanted to have the commission themselves. And so you'd have an agent showing a buyer a house that knows nothing about the community, nothing about the house, just kind of walking through, hardly talking at all, in and out. Okay, they're done with the showing. You ask, well, what did you like about this? Oh, well, we saw like 6 or 8. I don't really remember that one. So if you look at it, we're like, okay, well, let's flip the pages. Now we get to be in charge. We get to be the storyteller. So we get to point out all the positive attributes about the homes. We get to tell the story of, imagine yourself sitting here in this backyard, watching the kids jump in the pool, looking out, seeing the layer of trees behind you in complete privacy, sitting here having a glass of wine, reading a book. We can create the complete landscape to every single one of our listings. And the buyer gets to hear it from us, because those are our first showings now. We are sending those out as video links to anyone that wants to see a property. That is how they are viewing the listing. And then after that, if they're interested in wanting to see the property in person, then they're providing the fact that they are pre-approved, can purchase, signing a P form, and we're setting up an actual showing.
Interesting. So that's a big advantage right now, to being able to show people things without really showing them things. And yeah. I've had a lot of agents, you know, even you've got a videographer following you around while you narrate. Even people listening to this call who may not have that kind of budget or that kind of availability. I've had many agents telling me they're going out with their own iPhones and taking those videos themselves and walking through and narrating it. It's kind of the same thing. You're still showing a property without having a physical presence there. And I've been being told that those have been getting unbelievable response when they've been, you know, positioned out on social media. Those same people, those same agents are advertising that that's what they're doing. That's a very attractive tool to sellers right now, because you really have become the buyer's agent in a lot of respects. Even if they have one, you've become the, you know, number one buyer's agent at that point. So yeah, I think that most of our agents need to adopt some kind of videography in this, if they haven't done so already, if they intend to list homes, and tell people they're doing that.
It's honestly, it's not going to be a possibility. It's going to be a necessity. It will absolutely be a necessity.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I would say if anyone is not doing that, and again, whether it's you on your iPhone or your Samsung, if you know, you've got a little gizmo device, whatever it is, you have someone follow you around, you know, it's going to become a reality of a new expectation.
For sure.
From a seller and from a buyer standpoint.
For sure. We talked a little bit about the pricing in most markets. Everything seems to still be remaining stable. No one has that crystal ball right now, but everything that I'm seeing, everything that the agents and our clients are reporting, as well as you, things to be considered right now, or that we're not in a big, huge, you know, vortex of pricing at this moment. Have you seen anything in the last couple of weeks that would lead you to believe that this market is going to lose that momentum, or it's going to, you know, fall off a cliff, for lack of a better way of saying that?
No. No, absolutely not. Not right now.
Yeah. I would probably say that to our people out there listening on this, and the people who are going to get the recording of this that couldn't attend today, I would probably say that from everything we've been reading and hearing from agents in their own marketplaces right now, other parts of the country are experiencing very different things, but the Southern California market is seeming to remain extraordinarily stable. So, and you guys are in a, you know, you're in a high-end luxury market. And I would think that if we were going to see massive price drops, we would be seeing them right now in properties. I just think there's just not enough houses out there. And so demand it's going to stay.
Well, that's you've got a combination of low inventory and very low prices, and people wanting to move.
Yeah.
And
you can't beat that, right, for demand.
You can't beat that no matter what.
All right, so we'll get close to wrapping this up, but what does an agent need to do right now? From your perspective, Carole, 40 plus years of doing this, what does an agent need to do right now to be on the right side of this market when we open back up and things start to ebb back to normal, which is going to be gradual, but it will happen. I don't think anyone thinks we're going to be in this perpetual state of lockdown for the next decade. So what does an agent need to do right now to make sure that they're positioned for when the calls do start coming in for regular listing calls, not just financial burden calls?
Well, they need to be marketing. They need to prepare themselves to go out on these listings. But I think marketing is beyond crucial, sending mailers out all the time. Quit being a dinosaur. You have to be proactive. You can't be just sitting there waiting, thinking business is going to come to you. That is not going to happen anymore. And it didn't a lot before, but you've got to really go out there and procure, you know, the business, and start making phone calls, calling people.
Yep.
You can be present without sending emails out.
Mm-hmm. Ask for the order, right?
Without being present.
Yeah. Ask for the business and it shall come. Isn't that it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just say, hey, how are you doing? By the way, this great house. I mean, I called a client, another agent listed a house that I thought would be perfect for them. They weren't thinking of selling or moving or selling their current house, but I called them anyway just to say, hey, this home came up. I thought of you for some reason. Would you like to go see it just to take a look at it? And that's what we're going to be doing. And they weren't really considering moving because they saw the home when I sent it to them online and thought it was a beautiful house. So if I didn't do that, that wouldn't be happening.
Yes. So just do it. We're going to borrow Nike's. Just do it, right?
Do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Exactly.
Genelle, give me a couple of words of advice as the CEO of Crisis Marketing. Give me a few words of advice to close out today. No matter what price range or market that an agent is in, what are a few words of advice you could offer to them right now in this particular market we're in?
Be a friend. You know, and I say that in an advisory role, right? Is we are social human beings. What people are really lacking right now is that socialization, those conversations, the being able to be out and about doing their normal daily activities. And so, especially in light of all of this, be mindful of being willing to go the distance with someone. You know, start the conversations now. No, they may not lead to anything for the next 3, 6, 9 months, but this is a relationship business. And for anyone that treats this as a transactional business, it is times like this that you will realize that model will not work, because things like this do happen. And if you are not constantly aware of the relationships that you create and the relationships that you need to consistently support and work on, you will not be remembered when someone really actually needs a friend.
Perfect. I think a lot of people need to hear those types of things right now. I think it's easy to sit back and say, oh, woe is me, and what are we going to do? And my income has dried up and I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And I have a lot of, I'm much more of an optimist than I should be, owning a business that's tied to real estate, as I'm sure you are too. But I do see light at the end of all of these tunnels with all these crises. And I really hope that our people out there are going to listen to this clearly and do what they need to do right now to make the connection so that everybody comes out of this the way that we entered into this. I can't believe the start of 2020 was this promising. And, you know, here we are in almost the start of May right now, because boy, 2020 came out the gate like a horse on a tear. So I think we're going to see that back again, and some patience, some diligence. And
yeah, you know what, Sandy, the other thing too is, really, a client can always detect desperation. So you don't want to ever go there. And a lot of people who maybe need money or whatever kind of get, you know, give that feeling off. You can't do that. And you always remember, the character is what you have when no one is looking.
That's a true statement too. I think we've written a lot of the COVID type messages for this marketplace. I also think people need to understand not to be afraid to be an expert right now. And that sounds really kind of a little crazy, but you all know your business better than the people who are asking you questions about their house and house prices in the market. And I think people need to come back to, I know this business. It was hard to get the license. It was hard to earn all these stripes and sell all these homes and go through all these transactions over the years. And now I need to put that to use and tell people I really do know what I'm talking about. And I really am the authority that you're seeking when you're asking all these questions. And I think you need to put that out there too. You've got to put out information that kind of supports that you are who you say you are. And I think that's key, not just in listings and sales, but you know what's going on in the marketplace.
Well, you know, it's just like if you go into an attorney's office, you don't tell the attorney what he's supposed to do for you. Or you go into a doctor's office, you don't prescribe the medication that you want him to prescribe to you. It's the same thing, you know.
Be the expert that they need.
So be the professional, for sure.
Yeah, that's what we've tried to tell people, you know, that have asked us, well, what type of thing should I be putting out? Be the expert that you are. I mean, be the person, like the attorney you go to for advice, like the doctor you go to for a diagnosis. Be that person, because they're expecting you to be that person. So be well informed and know what you're talking about, and make sure you're putting it out there to them that they can call you and ask for that kind of advice because you're well positioned for it. So thank you very much for your time today. I truly appreciate you as people and you as clients and taking your time out of your very busy days to handle this and do this with me. I think there's a lot of people today who are going to get a lot out of this. I'd like to open this for some questions. I see that we've got one of them right now straight on the board. So I'm going to ask you this because I'm not sure if you can see what I can see. From Debbie Heldorn, what type of transaction did you get off of the postcards that you sent, the ones that were presented that we showed at the beginning of the slide? What type of transactions came off of that? Were they phone calls or were they actual come list me transactions, I think is what she's asking.
So the friend one actually just went out. So it's difficult to answer that question because I don't think there's been enough time through that. The river versus persistence, that went out to a couple of farms where, interestingly enough, we around that time had come into a couple of transactions. So, you know, for us, please know these farms that we're mailing to, we've been mailing to for, oh gosh, in some instances, you know, 15, 18, 20 plus, I mean, really, some of them are like 10 years old. Some of them are 5 years old. Some of them are 2 years old. Some of them are 30 years old. So it's not necessarily that that one piece created all of a sudden this activity. It's that we continue to create pieces and be cognizant of the messages that are being sent out. But if you kind of want an idea of, so we've done, let's just say in the last 45 days since kind of this has taken hold, so to speak, we've in the 45 days, not including closed transactions in the last 45 days, but we have 15 open escrows in the last 45 days that are scheduled to close in the next week to 3 weeks. And then obviously we had many close prior to the 45-day occurrence or close kind of the first couple weeks into the 45-day occurrence. But I've always looked at what's currently going on, right? Because once you get through pendings, barring a loan didn't get pulled, you're closing on the house in most cases. So what was more important for us to track was from the moment we got all ordered to stay at home, how many houses did we put under contract from that point on? And that's really what we're tracking to kind of really kind of see from a numbers perspective.
And what is that number, if you don't mind sharing that from the time?
So 15 currently under contract right now. And that includes 1, 2, 3, 4 that have already closed escrow.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, that does not include already 4 that have already closed escrow. So 19 total.
19 total since we started this. Yeah. Okay. I think that we've got, are there any other open questions that are coming in? Brianna also had put on here that you can feel free to raise your hand. I think to actually also doing that, but I have another one I can read you on here if nobody wants to raise their hand and actually talk. It's just us, I guess. Virginia Lee is asking, how big of a farm do you have and how many postcards do you send a month? Large and large. I could probably answer that. Large.
Thank you. I'm like, Sandy, why don't you answer that?
They're going to look at me and say, I don't know, how many are we sending? So the Geronsin farms, if we were sending them all, as we have been doing since this all started 45 days ago, is roughly about 5,000 homes. We've been ratcheting up the sending. Typically, the Geronsins send 2 to 3 of those all-encompassing mailers in a month to all of those areas, and then they'll insert other pieces as we go along in a normal world. They'll insert a piece here or there to specialized farms if there's a listing, a sale, a buyer, or something to talk about. We've been blanketing the areas right now, so everybody's receiving basically the same type of thing. So I would tell you that they're mailing right now every 10 days to 5,000 properties right now. So the 10-day rule of thumb kind of sets with most farming rules if you just go back to normalcy. Every 10 days is kind of when you want to be in there, which puts you in there 3 times a month. That's kind of how it works. And they have prescribed to that same theory for as long as I've known them, and I was summoned the very first time to Carole's office to talk about it. So it wasn't always 5,000, was it, Carole? I think we started out with like 800. So we have grown.
Probably less than that, Sandy.
Yeah, it might have been less than that. But the Geronsons also have combined farms. They have farms in different price ranges. I think that's important to make a point here. Not all of them are in the same price range. So we've got move up areas into higher end luxury areas. In all of that, it kind of helps you to not stagnate into one particular thing also.
Right.
Keep that in mind as well. I have a question from Ryan Immel that just popped up. What's the hottest selling price in North Orange County right now? And that is from Guru Senior and Junior. So Carole, that is from Phil Immel.
Really? My boyfriend.
He's my ketchup boy. There's a long story behind that. Remind me to tell you that story one of these days. But they would like to know what the hottest selling price is in North Orange County. I imagine because they have a similar comment to make about the hottest selling price in South Orange County.
Well, we'd be interested in hearing that. Actually, under $1 million, but Genelle, we've had that 2-3 house.
Yeah. So
Multiple offers.
you know,
offers
I
on it.
would say this. Specific, it's interesting for different neighborhoods. So I could say in, like, for example, in Anaheim Hills, a great property between like 1.5 and 2.5, and I know that's $1 million swing, but a home that's got a great yard and is move-in ready and has been remodeled within the last 5 years with kind of the cooler tones and a little bit more of like big great room concept living, those I could sell over and over and over and over again every single day of the week. And we have had 2 of them come on the market since December. So the price point is more determined on the particular property style that's available. But I would say, yes, I mean, certainly under $1 million, but even North Orange County, I would say right up to like under 1.1 or right under 1.2 is pretty moving quickly if you have the house that warrants it. Interestingly enough, the gray area is really around $1,250,000 to like that $1,700,000, $1,800,000 number.
Yeah.
And then for great properties at like $1,750,000, $1,800,000 to the low 2s, those are moving again as long as the upgrades and the floor plans and everything are warranted with regards to that.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. There you go, Phil. You got everything you need to know. I don't see any more hands up on the attendance list. Brianna.
Andy, I saw something pop up about does One Step do service or something on a chat. I think it popped up or something.
Oh, I did not see that. Why am I not getting that? See, people are talking back even on a Zoom meeting. Check that out.
Well, you know, I think something that's really important to note, Sandy, is what a great, great, great job One Step Services does.
Oh, thank you. We didn't pay for that advertisement or
No,
endorsement.
they didn't, and she didn't even have me say anything or whatever, but really, truly, just like with real estate agents, people have choices. And so it's important to get people who are authentic, who care about you, and who do a great job all the time, consistently. And that's been One Step Services all these years, come hell or high water. And you've got to have a good team behind you. And One Step Services is part of our team that we will be loyal till the end of our business days. So,
which, you know, Genelle and George both have kids, so I don't expect that to be anytime soon. So, you know, I think we've got, oh, that's very sweet. Stella Warden, one of our panelists and one of our clients actually said, agreed, One Step is fabulous. Thank you. I appreciate the kudos. We only exist to serve. I tell my staff this all the time. We wouldn't exist without our clients. And we kind of consider ourselves the Nordstrom of services, not in terms of price, but in terms of service. I use a lot of comparisons with Nordstrom. We like hand-holding. We like that type of personal approach, and we like working with people who really need and utilize our services to the best of their abilities as well as our own. So clients like you and clients that we have that we work with on a regular basis make us better. So I would say that the feeling's quite mutual. And like I said, you both have kids down there, Genelle. So I expect this to just family tradition to just continue for years to come. So I don't see any more questions up there. I'm going to defer back really quick to Brianna Alexander, who unvideoed herself for this. That is our marketing strategist at One Step. I want to make sure, Brianna, I'm not missing anything coming on here.
Okay, I just saw something from Beelan, advice of cash buyer or something like that.
Yes, it says, what is your advice if your cash buyer with a clear and no contingent offer receives a counter from a seller with 13 other counter offers?
Well,
so apparently we're talking about their buyer with a clear, no contingent buyer offer received a counter offer from the people they put the listing into, and there's 13 other counters out.
so my question would be, did the cash buyer write a competitive offer, a really strong offer, or did the cash buyer write a low offer because he felt he should be able to get a better deal because he was cash?
Brianna, can you unmute our panelists on there?
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
It's an interesting question. Look at that. You're being asked as experts.
Bim, if you'd like to, you can go ahead and talk directly. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. They listed the price was lower. In fact, when we make a offer, we were, I think, 20,000 above asking price. So when we counted another 5,000 above the offer the buyer has submitted before.
Okay, did you talk to the listing agent over the phone and find out kind of where their spread of offers was?
Yes, he said very close to the other buyer's offer, but then when you counter higher and best to come back, he said he won't know, and it's not fair to, disclose to me what are the offers,
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's very tough, 13 other offers.
Well, what I would what's the price?
Oh, the price is in mid-5.
Okay. Well, I would strongly suggest, one, you remove an appraisal contingency because it's cash, it doesn't need it. Two, I would shorten your contingency period. It's cash. All he needs to do is get through with an inspection. So I'd take all your contingencies down to 10 days or less.
This is what I do.
And then three, I would make sure that you write as a cover leader explaining, like, this is what my client's willing to do. These are our terms, and scan it with the counteroffer. And here's why I recommend that is because a lot of times agents will piecemeal stuff so they can pick and choose what they want to send to their client. Most agents aren't going to separate PDFs and piecemeal it to their client. They'll forward the one PDF to their client.
I see. Okay. Yeah, we removed the appraisal contingency during our offer because it's a cash offer, so we didn't need an appraiser. So also remove inspection because my client's a contractor.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then honestly, I would just have a conversation with I would put that in a cover and say, we're all cash. We have this time period for any preliminary title. We have no appraisal. We have no inspection contingency. We're willing to do this price. And at the end of the day, someone else, in my opinion, would have to blow you out of the water price point wise.
Yeah.
Not to make that happen.
Okay. Yeah, they received 38 offers for the property.
38?
38 offers.
38.
What area are you in?
13 counters sending out. So
What area?
What area?
Huh?
What area?
Garden Grove.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a flip.
In the mid-5s.
Fixer up. Yeah, fixer upper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that property is so, within 3-5 months. Huh? Sorry? Yeah, 38 offer. Wow.
Okay, thank you, Bilam.
Thank you so much.
You a little bit. All right. I don't think we've got any other offers. I mean, any other questions, any other questions on this today. So I'm going to wrap this up and just say a very fond thank you and a goodbye to the two of you until we speak again, which I'm sure will be tomorrow. I'm going to go check on your postcards when we get off this and make sure the post office is doing their job. And anybody else, if there's any questions, please feel free to info@onestepservices.com, email us. Or give a call over to the office. We do have people kind of in and out over there, and we are picking up messages, even though I've sent my staff home to work remote. So our whole staff's working. We're here to help, just like the Geronsons are for their clients. So thank you all very much. I hope you all have a great Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.